What's going on, everybody? It's Avi and Joe back for another drive along video. If you're new here on the channel, my name's Avi and this is Joe. We're the Santa Barbara group and we make a lot of cool real estate videos and videos about Santa Barbara. On my channel, I do everything from the best places to eat in Santa Barbara, cool new things happening in Santa Barbara, a lot of updates about the real estate market. And on Joe's channel, make sure you subscribe to Joe. Every Saturday, he releases a drive along showing property tours, a lot in Montecito, but also Santa Barbara, Carp, a little bit of everything. So if you want to tour property, make sure to check out Joe. But in today's video, Joe, what I want to talk about with you, we just met with some people who are considering selling their family's home, actually two homes. Their mother passed away and they're looking to offload potentially one house and one condo. And we talked a lot about the market, where things are at. And I was kind of thinking, this is a good conversation that a lot of people that are potentially watching the Santa Barbara market, whether they're looking to potentially buy someday or if they own a house and they want to know what's happening with values, this is good stuff that they would want to know too. So I wanted to talk about what we talked about with them. And Joe, right now, tell me a little bit about what we're seeing in terms of market, in terms of pricing, in terms of kind of what's happening for those people that are trying to sell a house right now.
Yeah, we're seeing like buyers are being super cautious and patient. You know, there's not a big sense of urgency unless they have a specific, life situation that's creating urgency. But I get this feeling that buyers feel like time's on their side, that potentially in the future rates will come down, potentially in the future maybe prices will come down, there could be more inventory. And so all that's translating into, I think, a market that is getting a little bit more stagnant, balancing out, a little less favoring the sellers depending on the house, the condo, and the condition of it and how they price it. And so all of those things that I just touched on equate to a really super price sensitive market. And you have to get sharp on pricing your home when you're going to looking to sell it, which is hard to do in this market because there's so much noise about the anomalies now of the properties that sell with multiple offers going over asking, which still happens in this market, which sends a lot of confusing messages to homeowners who have a hard time sometimes seeing maybe some of the flaws in their property that may bring the value down. And if they don't recognize that up front, they could have the market show them that by days on the market or missed opportunities with failed escrows and all these things that when you're not priced right, you experience, which aren't usually pleasant things for a seller to experience.
Totally. And just out of personal experience, for example, we launched a condo a couple weeks ago, priced very aggressively, really nice product. It was staged, looked really clean and showed well. We got 2 offers within a week, which is kind of rare in this market, but the buyer had a family emergency and it fell out. Not sure if it was, maybe just cold feet, but they just didn't want to proceed in the contract after about a week of being under contract. And now it's been a little bit slower, and that's just how this market is. I mean, not that long ago, 2 or 3 years ago, you obviously, could list your house almost at any price and expect some of our offers, what we had ones that would have 30 offers was kind of the cap. But like 5 offers was to be expected at least, and selling within a week. And sellers are wondering how could, the market change so much in a short amount of time. And that's just the way things are at. Interest rates are high. Affordability is really difficult in this market and in any market, honestly. And there's just some uncertainty where, people who aren't in a need to buy situation, they're definitely waiting. So, I mean, as a seller, you just have to really understand that maybe if you can rent your house out for a little while, maybe if now, if you want that crazy frothy market, this market isn't for you. And if you do need to sell your house, you just have to be very realistic and can't expect things to be like they were 3 years ago.
Yeah, right, exactly. It's definitely changed. And, there's just all that uncertainty out there in the world is causing people to kind of pull back, and there's just a lot of different mechanisms that are keeping things a little bit quiet as far as the number of deals happening out there.
Exactly. So talking about how sellers need to be ultra realistic, that's one side of the coin. But on the other side of the coin, maybe that's discouraging for some, but for those people that have been waiting for a while, there's a lot more opportunity now. For example, one deal we have under contract, we just got after our negotiations and inspections, we got a $60,000 price reduction. And 2 years ago, that would not have happened.
Right. Yeah. A lot more opportunity for buyers if the property is not in one of those multiple offer situations, and most of them aren't these days. Some are, and you'll know because it'll be really attractive, obviously, and we'll be able to tell that there's a bunch of people going for it. But when there isn't, you definitely have room to negotiate. And then we're seeing like what's happened, what Avi was talking about, when you're in escrow, it's a real threat for a seller to go back on the market. So you do have kind of a bit of leverage at that point in time if you've discovered some things wrong with the property, to be able to use that leverage to get the deal down in price, to get a credit or get things fixed. So that ability to renegotiate really is a lot more present in this market, where sellers are having to attract buyers and maybe attract them to stay within the deal that they've agreed upon once all the discovery is done.
Yep. And I think a difficult thing as a buyer is to weed out the noise, because there's so many articles, podcasts, whatever the heck, everyone who thinks they're a professional in real estate saying don't buy a house right now, now's a bad time. But a lot of the best buys are in those times where people are saying don't buy real estate. If you think about like people who picked up properties after the '08 crash, people who picked up properties during COVID, like when the lockdown was happening, people were saying, why are you buying a house right now? The world's about to end. Like if it makes sense for you financially, if you've run your numbers with a lender, if you have the capital to make it happen, oftentimes some of the best deals are sold in a market where there's a lot of fear. We look historically in the Santa Barbara real estate market, and if you're going to be here for a while, or if it's a long-term investment, at the end of the day, you're almost guaranteed to come out ahead. Even if those people that bought right before the major 2008 crash have seen major appreciation if they've held on to it through now.
Yeah.
So I think that's the tough part for a lot of people, though, is to understand that, even though everyone and their grandma might saying it's a terrible time to buy, everything's about to come crashing down, there's a lot of opportunity, is the truth.
Yeah, for sure. And in this market, like for example, we're seeing the values transition. Maybe some of the value up in the foothills is leaving and maybe being preserved in these lower areas like town here, downtown, or over on the Mesa has been a really hot neighborhood lately, where it's preserving its values. You're still seeing things looking like the next one's selling for a little bit higher than the last one. So these types of things are becoming a little bit more spread out. The market as a whole isn't behaving the same way. And so, for example, in these areas that have been hot, like on the Mesa, opportunities still exist, especially on the homes that need to have some work done. So if you could find something and you're open to looking at a fixer, I think you're going to find a lot more opportunity than if you just want to buy something that you're going to be able to move right in and start living. It's already been remodeled and it's got nice high design. Those are the ones where you're going to step up and pay that premium. But if you're willing to do some work, like we just got some clients into a place on the Mesa that had been on the market for about 40 days. And when it first hit the market, I thought for sure it was going to sell for the full price, if not more. I ran a market analysis on it. It looked like it should be about a $2.5 million home. It was priced at $2,350. And we kind of sat and watched it. And they did get several offers under asking price, but the seller wasn't having it. He didn't counter any of them. In fact, we wrote an offer, didn't get a counter. But we finally stepped up a little bit higher, but still were able to negotiate the price down and got it under contract. And I think they're going to be getting a great buy. It has some ocean views. It just needs some work, right? And so they're not opposed to investing a little time and money into this property, which looks like they're getting a great deal. And so these are the opportunities, knowing where to look for them in this market. And we've got a lot of ideas to share with you when we talk more about your specific needs, about how we could identify the opportunities in this market.
For sure. And I mean, think about the Mesa in 2021, 2022. There was one listing that we had that went, I think, $500,000 over the list price in the Mesa. I had one buyer get so lucky where they basically were in third backup position and the other two people backed out like randomly, and so we had to pay over our list price. We were in third place and got so lucky to get the house, and now we have properties that are a great buy that they're getting off on the list price. There's less pressure in the escrow. It's a whole different experience, and it's a good place to be compared to trying to outbid 20 or 30 other groups. One thing I also want to talk about that's important, because you talk about if you hold a house long term in Santa Barbara, you're going to come out ahead. But what we're seeing, which is pretty unique, and I mean it just shows where the market's at, is some people who bought a house a year or two ago and for whatever reason have to sell it are taking a loss on the house. And so that's a good thing to realize. If you're not sure where you're going to be in the next year or two, there's a little bit of instability with where you want to live long term, even if you could buy a house, I would say the best thing to do is rent, because it's not guaranteed that you're always going to sell a house for more than you buy it for. Can you touch on that a little bit too?
Yeah, and it's especially, I think, given where the market's heading right now, where it feels like there's a little bit more uncertainty in it and everything, you got to be willing, I think, to be able to be in it for the long game, which is probably at least a 3 to 5 year minimum to be thinking about it. And if you can't commit to that, then Avi's right. Renting is probably your best option, because at the end of that COVID market that we came out of, that was so energized with lots of people wanting to buy and very little inventory, that creates kind of almost a bubble in value to a certain degree. And I think the back end of that market did have some of that bubble value that people now are giving back, and we're seeing it in the properties Avi brought up, the ones that they purchased it 2 years ago and they're selling today. I've seen several, maybe a half dozen or so, that have gone through that dynamic and have sold for a little less than what they bought it for. So that's something that the market artificially devalues things that sell multiple times over a short period of time for whatever reason. If you don't do work to it, if you're not adding value to it and you're just hanging on to it for a little bit, buyers have a hard time rewarding sellers for that for whatever reason. So if you're not doing work to it and you're selling it quickly, you might have a hard time not only recouping the costs of sale, because you're going to have some costs built into selling a property, but then also just dealing with that kind of projection of maybe artificial decline in value because it's sold a couple times over the last 2 years.
I would say there's a lot of emotion when it comes to buying a house, which is different than other things that you buy. And just like how if a house has been on the market for a long time, people are going to assume and be emotional, think, oh, something's wrong with this house. And if a house just sold 6 months ago or a year ago, people in their mind are going to think something's wrong with this house. If these people didn't even like living in it for 6 years, why would I spend all that money on it? I think that's a good point, is that it's emotional. There's additional layers to what makes a house sell for what it does, and that's why working with an expert team will help you out. Yeah, guys, we make these type of videos all the time. If this is your first time and you want to get more of them, we would so appreciate you subscribing to my channel, and then make sure to subscribe to Joe's channel. You type in Joe Parker on YouTube. He is the #1 real estate, or honestly channel, I would think, in Santa Barbara. He's coming up on 10,000 subscribers in no time. I'm trying to catch up, but yeah, if you want to see amazing properties, we go on tour every week, and those come out on Saturday. If you want to look at the best places to eat in Santa Barbara, the certain neighborhoods, school districts, all sorts of property tours, everything from small little condos to stunning Montecito estates, we got them on both of our channels. And as always, guys, if you have questions, if you have comments, if you have your 2 cents you want to chime in, we love responding to the comments. So jump in the comments, let us know what you think, let us know your individual questions, and we love hearing from you as well. Joe right now, is working with a lot of people that reach out to him from YouTube. Yeah,
it's been a great way to meet people and give them a source of information, a source of value, and then also get to know someone on their own time. And if it seems like a good fit, there's chemistry there, like you like what we're putting out, then we invite you to introduce yourself to us and let us know how we could be of service and help you with your real estate journey.
Thank you guys so much for watching. As always, we'll see you on the next one. Make it a great day. Peace.